Good morning, everyone. Today's meeting is recorded. What you will first see here is our flow chart, and this is going to be done by Francine, right? Okay. If you see our flow chart, it's kind of detailed here. This is the one we discussed before. AOR stands for Architect of Record or the designer, okay? And the Architect of Record is in charge of planning and design. Now, in our office, we have checklists so that all our formats can be regulated in the same quality. Because it's hard to blame OJTs or apprentices if they don't produce the same output. That's why we have checklists in a form of contact forms, call cards, concepts, and illustrations. Our very first meeting with the client is to get their basic information, like what the doctor's assistant does whenever you visit the clinic, right? You don't meet the doctor immediately. Then we have our assessment. For us, our assessment is the tax declaration, mentioning about the value of the property, the lot title, the ownership of the property, the survey plan, the boundaries of the property, topography maps. Depends, not everybody has, but if your lot is sloping, it's nice to have contour plans, site sections. And then soil test is usually required for 3 stories and above here in Baguio City. Now, soil test, the OJTs last year experienced that they will dig like 2 holes and then get a sample under the ground and bring it to their laboratory. So SLU, I think, has one. And then after we have that, we now make the quotation. The design agreement is like what I showed you before. How much is the design? So what developers and contractors do, they just quote the whole project, including construction and design. But for us, design is a separate service. So we have intake forms like how many square meters are you targeting? If you don't know, let me help you. How many bedrooms on the first floor, second floor? Is the bathroom a powder room? Things like those to be able to make the space program. The dining area, how many seats are you after? Do you want a small private family with 4 seats? Or do you like to entertain guests in the living room to have 20 seats? And that will dictate your guide in order to make the design. And once your quotation is done, you have an agreement, you can start making the project definition phase and schematic plans. So the project details are usually the location, the site conditions like what you're doing with the as-built, analysis, north, south, east, west, project preferences and areas like mentioned earlier, and then even their Pinterest and color schemes, industrial finish, those kinds of things. Then you get the owner details because you don't know if they might scam you as well. So you get their full name, IDs, and then the special power of attorney will allow you to process in their behalf if they are abroad or if they're not available in Baguio. Then you finally make the space program, including this is your final output, vicinity map. That's just a Google map, site analysis, and space program. So your as-built will be including all of these. And then, if the design is new, we do the conceptual massing. The site controls is what you learned the other day in Bros. The building footprint, you learned that as well. And after you have that, you can make your massing, which is like blocks only. And then you can proceed with your floor layout. After discussing with the client, you can go now to your schematic designs. Usually plans and perspectives. Ay, gusto ko ng dark scheme. Ay, hindi. Gusto ko ng maaliwalas. Ay, hindi. Gusto ko ng Scandinavian. Ay, Archie, pwede ngang i-Japandi. So, if you're going to do them one by one, it will take so much time. But now with the use of AI, Instead of fighting against it, you can actually use it for your conceptual massings and schemes. But never tell the client that that's final because they will ask you to edit some. Unless you learn how to use generative AI. But if you think you're quick with SketchUp, ArchiCAD, Revit, Chief Architect, or Vectorworks, you can use whatever software you want. So for the conceptual plans, it's nice to use Ryan because Ryan will give you the space program immediately. If you're using SketchUp, it's nice to use the model because the model gives you the area immediately. It depends on your software. And then after maybe 2 to 3 schemes, we can limit them. It's not only schema, final design, and the final design will be the detailed plans, perspective, and estimates. Now, the final design can still have revisions, but they should be minor revisions, not major ones. What are minor revisions? Let's say tile sizes or stuff like that. That's why in the plan you put there callouts like floor finish 1, FF1. So in case there is a change, you don't have to draft it again in the plan, but you can just update the schedule. Same thing with structurals, electrical, and plumbing. Okay, so that is the first stage, which is letter A, architectural design. The second stage is where we need draftsmen. These are the blueprints and analysis. So you have architectural blueprints, including whatever you see in the plans, including door, window, railing, and finishes. I separated architectural interiors because usually these are still being discussed until finishing stage. So if you try to finish this immediately, you're not going to have time to process the building permit. So after architectural, the interiors can be done along the way, even during the permit stage, which include your finished plans, your tiles, your ceiling and lighting, your fixture and carpentry. So this is in Ambyong. And then you need the engineering plans as early as the architectural to coordinate with all of these systems. Because the engineer might say, the column is too small, we have to make it bigger, it will affect your interiors. Okay. After architectural and engineering are done, your DAEDs, you send them over for analysis for the engineers to approve, to design the exact sizes, and then you specify everything in the technical specifications. Now, your blueprints should actually have specifications, like how many doors, what color, what size. It's better that they are in your blueprint so you will not have a hard time during canvassing and purchasing. However, technical specifications is not limited to material. It also says the scope of works and how to do them. For example, bawal ang sewer line sa kanal. Something like that. And you have to place the plumbing code section where it says that. So if you want an example of specification, they look something like this. Fire Code of the Philippines, General Compliance, provide fire exits. So things that you need during construction. And it should be also reflected in your design. So the width of the exit, 90 centimeters per exit. So you cannot have it relied on the owner or the foreman. Ay, pwede na to. Ay, pwede na yan. Ay, pwede na yung 60 centimeters. No, because it has to comply with the code and you are the attorney of the building code and the travel distances. So when you are planning even the location of fire extinguishers, usually the client will say, dito na yan, sa taas na yan, itago na lang natin. You have to rely on your specifications. Okay, so emergency lighting for this case, battery operated is allowed or generator backed in all exit pathways. So you don't hide the emergency lighting in the comfort room alone. It has to be leading towards the fire because this is fire provision, fire code, RF A9514. Okay? And then you have schedule of finishes of materials. For example, if you are renovating like in Rivera, there are steps for demolition. First, removing all existing structures and to cap or to close all water and electrical lines before renovating. Waterproofing also has toilets, balconies, decks, and firewalls. And this specification are the basis for clients to sue you because sometimes you rely only on the drawing, but the specifications should be followed. So sometimes there are mistakes in the drawing, but the specifications have to be followed. So, for example, these specifications of structural, they are also in your blueprint. Para parehas. Now the problem here, let's say for Ambion Group, floor finish schedule, ceramic or porcelain floor tiles at the main floor area. Sometimes other technical writers, which are architects, they place there the specific brand like tiles, Mariwasa, Euro tiles, Italia. And if they placed it there, it should be followed. So the problem now is the client will see that the specification says Mariwasa, but you bought something else in actual. You bought Italia or you bought Eurotile. And the price difference is 2,000 pesos, for example. Now, you're going to start, our specification says Mariwasa. You forced us to buy 2,000 peso Eurotile. So you have to pay us the excess. Then she will answer, but you are the one who stated the specifications. Hindi mo naman sinabi sa akin na mariwasa dapat. We should have discussed the costing before I started to buy. Things like those. So in our case, we place here or as specified on the plans or verified by the architect. This is very important. We call this open-ended specs para maiwasan yung ganong conflict. Okay? Because sometimes what you put in the plans might change in the future. So these are examples of specifications, and then you have to sign it. So that's how it looks like. And then the bill of quantities are the costings, the areas, the labor, and everything that involves money as well. So your bill of quantities should be based on your technical specs, di ba? So three of them should be the same. Your blueprint drawings, your specifications, and bill of quantities. Kate is for consistency, okay? So whatever you see in your drawing in WANAS should be the same as what you will specify in your PO, in your inventory, in your delivery, in your specification, and your estimates. Okay? Then finally, verification of the design professionals include the professional tax receipt and the PRC verification. So these are examples. Interior designers, we call them PIID or IDR. Now that you are done with the whole design phase, finally the client will say, let's start construction. And you're going to say, but ma'am, we need the building permit first. So you can offer either as architect of record or architect in charge of construction. You can offer to do the construction permits assistant. So first, you need your SPA, special power of attorney, letter of intent, and affidavits of all the clients. And then now you can be the one to finalize the BOQ. The Gantt chart, Kate, is what I'm asking for Luakan. Billing also. So you need forms. You need to make forms for these because you're starting to apply in the building permit. And the building permit also states the schedule of construction and end of construction. Not only the building, but even the electrical and plumbing. Now that you have the building permit from all 4 LGUs, you can start talking about construction. So, the first thing we did in construction, what did we do, Kate? Site office, right? And then secure water, secure the electrical connection. Why? Because this takes time. And then finally, if your client opts for a groundbreaking, this is a special marketing strategy of many companies. But for us, it depends whether we do the fencing first or the building first. I prefer the fencing first for security. So that's what you see in VRAC. And then after the construction is complete, you get the occupancy permit for your water and electric bill to be under your name and for the fire safety requirements to be complete. You will also not turn over the building unless there are tests made, like leak tests for water, electrical test, and painting retouches. So once you're done with the permits, you do your documentation during construction. This is what you're doing now. So who's in charge? The one in charge of that is the construction manager. Construction manager can be 4 people, can be an engineer, can be an architect, can be an owner's staff, can be a firm. So we are a firm. I am acting as the AICC, and because I cannot duplicate myself, I'm using CSG, can be apprentices, staff, even OJTs can help here. In documentation, we do this site preparation, barracks, clearing and grubbing, that's clearing the soil. And then we are now in WANAS. What stage, Kate? What stage are we? Okay, we're actually it's together. Excavation, howling did not you did not excavate all of the footing yet, right? So you're still doing excavation and howling. Other areas are doing backfill and compaction. Compaction meaning to say making it compressed. And you started with the structural framing for the columns and beams. Afterwards, in rough-ins, you have architectural rough-ins, things to hold your final finishes, like your wall framing. You have electrical rough-ins, like your pipes, plumbing as well, equipment, your water tanks, and so on. Now, ambiong is in finishing. Finishing is usually the things you see in your architectural, everything that can be seen. So in ambiong, you are now in where, Marla? Okay, so you're now in painting, the surface preparation, railings, and next will be the floor. And then usually we do our site development separate from the building because they might have a different design. So fencing, gates, carport, laundry, lanai, and patio. Then this is what's required, Kate and Juanas. Everything has to be done in the logbook. Regardless if you have an electronic copy, your logbook should have a list because that will be submitted to the government. And your logbook involves what the OGTs are doing, manpower, material, measurement, sometimes when we're discussing for as-built, and then your management. And occupancy, sometimes in Baguio, they require calamansi plants, extinguishers, smoke detectors, and then finally the turnover. So if you want to see the turnover of, that's why in order to hack the system, instead of only focusing on clients, we made the developers our clients. At least, tama yung nagagawa ng construction. The clients will refer you as the professional. They will not refer the whole company. They will say, Uy, si Architect Omar, magaling talaga siya. Walang nag-leak. And then you can have more clients outside of the company. So that's why in everything you do, you have to put some heart into it. Hindi yung picture lang, alis na. Ito lang trabaho ko, alis na. Parang pag-isipan mo siya. Try to understand how is this made, what the client wants. That's why if you saw the video earlier, simple lang yung bahay. Because yun talaga ang kaya ng budget. But do you know why? In order to establish your firm, you need to know your flowchart. Or else you do not know where to put your staff. Is your staff in charge of drafting? Is your staff in charge of permits, or is your staff in charge of the site? Now, for our company, we have like very simple. So, I have an admin, that's Geraldine. She's doing both bookkeeping. Driver, ako na rin yun. And QA/QC. Originally, she was here, but I think Marla is doing this. However, she's not managing all of the projects. So, design professionals include our engineers, architects, interior designers. These are not necessarily under the design manager if you outsource them. But if we hire them, they are under our design manager. And draftsmen are under the professional. So si apprentice, hindi dapat siya ang nagde-decide ng client leads, marketing, and the final decisions. They are there to assist. Estimates as well. Then final approval bago pumunta kay QA/QC, and critical decisions only come to me. That's why I don't like having to ask every day, what are you doing? What's the update? Where are you now? This should be input coming from below for final positions. And if you notice, most of the skilled workers and computer literate workers are here in the technical team. These are people who really need to have the hard skills. Design, 3D, drafting, construction. Pero pagdating sa taas, pansin mo, ang role mo is managerial. Hindi computer yung hinahawakan mo. You are managing people. Because construction managers might not be only one. They might be five. They might be three. Same thing. Site supervisors, Marla is not the only one. Kate is also there. Geraldine is also there. Diba? So, construction managers also handle people. And if you are not a people person, I'll tell you that in the past, may mga nayabangan sa mga managers na hinarangan nila sa site, pinatay nila, and they buried him underground. So they murdered the engineer dahil sa kayabangan because all he knows is he has the skill, he can do QA/QC, he can do the program, he can do the procurement, but he does not know how to control risks. He doesn't know how to manage conflict. He doesn't know how to manage different culture. He's racist, whatever, okay? He doesn't know how to manage people's needs in the site. Wala silang tubig, walang kuryente, walang pagkain. So if you want to make your own firm, you have to start with the hard skills, but then you need the people skills. Okay? So do you want to have a firm? It's very hard. Unless you only have one client, then it's okay. But if you really want to enlarge your firm, do you notice why, even if your instructor says let's not tackle politics, but do you notice why many politicians don't do the work themselves? Ang dami nilang ganto, di ba? Ang dami nilang manager. You have the executive, you have the secretary, you have the assistant secretary. Puro managerial ang role. Puro salita and documentation. Pero yung talagang gumagawa, like the teachers, the staff, are not being supported. Tapos mas malaki pa ang sahod dito kaysa dito. But if you go abroad, mas malaki ang sahod neto. Because they are the ones really working physically. Welders, carpenters, they earn as much as 85,000 minimum to 150,000 per month. Okay, while they're, let's talk about Korea. Well, my cousin is in Korea. He's a laborer in the factory. Nagbubuhat siya ng pellets ng paint. He's earning almost 150,000 a month. But 3 shifts night shift, 3 shifts day shift. Sometimes no day off. So it's very exhausting and critical. Now, a computer graphic designer in Korea, let's say design professional siya, earns 70,000 or half. Why? Because they don't really need much computer graphic designers if everybody is in college studying the same thing. Now that AI is there, jobs are lessening as well. So, this person tried to go to the factory because she wants to earn 150,000. Hindi niya kaya kasi they start to think, I want to be in the office, I want to be the boss, kaya ayaw nila mag-labor work. The same thing in Japan. That's why they have a problem now. The prime minister who stepped down wanted to migrate a lot of Africans and Indians to balance the population and also for labor skill. Because the Japanese themselves want some managerial positions. And these positions are not being given to foreigners because of homogeneous identity. The Philippines is mixed, so you have everybody from here up to here. The problem is all the money is here. Okay? In our firm, actually, I don't have a salary. Okay? It's already your konsensya. Because if I get big salary, then there will be no sahod for the workers. There will be no materials for construction. Unless I tell the client, sahuran mo ako na separate. Pwede yun. Okay? But then I will be their employee. So hindi ka na CEO. So that's the risk. Kaya ang ginagawa ng many companies, nangungupit sila. What they do, they charge high and they build low. Instead of getting good workers from Baguio, they get from the provinces kasi mas mababa daw. But the problem is you are risking also the work kung hindi sila marunong. Okay? So did you learn anything from flowchart and org chart? Okay. Other org charts look like this. So others look like this. Design build, you have the owner, you have the designer, builder, and then consultants and trade contractors. Ganito ang setup natin because we are in design and construction. And then trade contractors or workers, and then design consultants or those engineers for permits. You want your firm to be like this: owner, designer, tapos ipa-kontrata mo sa builder yung construction. Ikaw lang sa design. Or you want it to be like this: you're the designer, ipa-kontrata mo, but the owner can also get his own or her own builders. Or you want to be like this: ikaw ang architect, and you can also be the construction manager. Sinusupervise mo yung builder. Okay?